All right, so to fix, yeah, there you go. Bash. We're going to model the latch. So let's get out of way from my face and onto Fusion. All right, so we'll use, first off, we'll use one of my models as an example, is making the latch built onto this. Because right now, this would just open and close and nothing really more. What I want to do is put a latch on. Now, as far as latches go, there's so many different ways, and you could, yes, absolutely model a version, excuse me, that has like an actual moving latch, and that's just adding more layers to this whole idea. But essentially what we're going to be doing here is like I did with this model here. Let me get all of these bits out of the way if I can. Great. And turn off section analysis, and I'll switch back on to auto color mode. So what we're doing here is just some sort of a protrusion, and in this case it's the bottom, that has an arm that goes from one side, the lid, to the base, or vice versa. It doesn't really matter, but traditionally it would be more of like the lid has the latch and that sort. And it has a little arm that has a gap in between, and we'll just use like, I'm using like a cylinder, so a circle, just some sort of a little nub that would protrude in the other half. And let me turn on section analysis, which just cuts the object in half to see what you're seeing, looking at from a cross section. So it essentially just have this little nub that would protrude into the other body, and we're going to use that to cut away. So as I go to open this, yes, it clips through right here, but we are printing these in plastic that has some flex to it. So the idea here would be, considering that this has a flex to it, as it moves past, that little flap would push out of the way ever so slightly. So making use of the fact that we're printing in plastic versus like if you were like machining this out of metal, this really would not work. Or it would have to be much tighter tolerances. But that's what we're going to do. We're also going to intentionally add like a bit of a gap, things like that. But we'll get to that point. So how do I apply that to my model? Well, let's do a flat one, and then I'll show you how to do it on the round one. So this was my example model, lid base, all that kind of fun. I want to add a sketch to this. So as it is, we have our lid in one component, base in the other. I'm going to have the entire project active. So I have the little button clicked at the very top of the project tree, and I'm going to create a new sketch perpendicular to my model, exactly like we did for the hinge. So I'm looking at it from the side. I'm going to do the same that we did before. Go to create, project, or just press P. And I want to borrow selection filter by bodies. I want to borrow the top and the bottom. Okay. So now I can hide those. So I have the same thing that I did for the hinge. That's even modeled in the now, but I have now on the left side here. So I have my top and bottom component, the outlines. All I'm doing for this, and you can do basically any variation of this sort, and if anybody is interested in actually making a moving latch as well, we'll talk about that afterwards. But this part, you can kind of just do whatever. So what I'm going to do here is I like often using just a line tool, some distance up, go out a little bit. All right, that's 2 millimeters. Cool. And we're going to go down the same amount. Sure, keep it even. All right, 8. Nice. So it's just this L, out and down. That's it. I'm going to then, because I want to be lazy, I want to use my offset tool to copy that and go inward a little bit. I don't know, sure, if I went far enough in, 1 millimeter ought to do it. Since I went 2 millimeters out, half that length would be 1 millimeter. Great. That works just fine. I'm going to close this up with a line, connect to connect. There we go. My sketch is now closed. It's a little Tetris, but it's this little Tetris object, this little L. I do want to add a circle. So I'm going to add a center point circle because I can select somewhere on that inner side. Sure, that seems about right. And I want to extend not only just to the edge, but I want it to actually go inward a bit. So if this protrudes the other side, whatever. But the main thing is I want to make sure that it does in fact extend into the body a bit of the base. So I don't know, that's a, what's that say, 2.75? All right, cool. It goes in a little bit. Fine. That's it. That's really it. I just want to, so it extends inside a little bit. These are not absolute dimensions. This is just a good amount. That's what I'm going for here. All right, finished sketch. That's really all I need. And it disappeared. All right. We're going to do this exactly like I did the hinge. I'm going to unhide and activate the lid component. I'm going to extrude. Get out of the way, face. My sketch, want the little arm, circle. Yeah, sure, get the little tab. And all the little parts that go to the circle, so it is inside the base. I'm going to change the direction so it extrudes symmetric both ways. And go a distance. Kind of just whatever. I don't know, 4 or 5, whatever feels about right. In other words, don't make it too tiny. It'll just totally break right off. Nor does it have to be the entire length of the piece. Just some kind of a little snap here. In this case, all right, it's 5 millimeters, 1.5 length. That means the whole thing is 10, or if I wanted to make it actually 5 millimeters all around, change my measurement to the whole length, whatever. Just because it's bothering me, I'm going to change that to 6 millimeters because reasons. It is going to join to the lid just like we did for the hinge. Cool. That's it. All right. Now, one of the things we talked about before, what is a weak connection? A 90-degree angle. Let's change that. Let's add a fillet to this so it rounds it out a little bit. I'm going to select my fillet tool. I want around the corner here. Now, the thing is, I only want just these sides here at the moment, or maybe I get all of them. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. Let's extrude out a little bit, and ooh, curvy, curvy. All right. Just adding, okay, that turned out to be 1 millimeter. I just drug it out until it seemed about right. Again, seems about right. Good. All right. That makes for a much stronger connection. But I do also want to look at the side here. Look at the inside. That's very angular. Let's add a fillet into there too. Ooh. I want to select that edge, not the face, the edge. If I can get to it, and also that edge. Again, I am just going with what seems about right. Oh, okay. Apparently half millimeter makes a full round. So yeah, totally. That works. The rest is just aesthetics. But a fillet, it makes for a much stronger connection point. You can certainly add rounds, all that to the rest of it. You could add chamfers, whatever you feel like. But the main thing is, basically, it's a little arm with a cylinder on the inside. That's it. Okay, cool. Unhide the base, reactivate the whole project. Now, it still works up and down, but see how it intersects the body? And I'm going to turn on, I don't have a section analysis on just yet. So if you want to see how that works, we go to inspect, section analysis, and I select, if I can't get to the origin point, I have to hide one of the objects right there. That just cuts the thing in half. I'm just looking at a cross section of it. It's an easy way to see if your model is going to be working right. Leave it okay to turn that off and on. Over on the project tree, just toggle the visibility off and on. That's it. So I'm going to zoom in, and the problem is yes, it does exactly what I want. The lid has a latch that goes inside the body. The problem is it has nowhere to connect to. So the last part on this would just be, I just need to use the top as a cutting tool to cut a little notch out of the bottom. So I'm turn off the section analysis so you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to use a combine tool. My target body is the bottom, the base part, and my tool body is the lid, the top. I'm going to switch my operation to cut. Make sure you check the box that says keep tools. Otherwise, I'm using the entire lid as my cutting tool for just that one little nub. But if I don't check this, it'll delete the whole thing. It'll delete the whole lid. Is it okay? All right. Now I can go in. Yay. It's got a teeny little notch. That's literally it. So if I go to section analysis, now the idea here would be, all right, when I close it, that little notch would drop into there and we're good. Now, in all reality, no, that will probably be mildly problematic because that's a pretty significant chunk of material there. See how that has all that connection point there? I probably would have to play around with that a little more. Maybe shrink the latch a little bit so it doesn't extend quite so far. The good thing is because we're modeling this the way we have with set dimensions, I can go back and make alterations and it'll recalculate. So with that in mind, let me go back in, edit sketch, and I'm going to change the dimensions on that one from 8. Let's try 7 millimeters. All right, that didn't move the sphere at all because it wasn't linked to anything. Excuse me. So with that in mind, then I can just move that up a little bit. Sure, let's go about there. I just moved it up a wee bit. Recalculates everything. All right, that's a much smaller bit of a connection I need to make. Same thing could be, you know what? I think that sphere is a little bit large. Let's move that down to like 2.5. So now it's an even smaller amount of cross section. All right. A lot less material to push around. Okay, cool. That's really it. That's really about it. Turn off my section analysis. Now you could, of course, always add features, all kinds of stuff. Say like in that sketch, maybe I wanted to make that little thumb tab, I don't know, have ridges or something. I could go in and, I don't know, let's add like some half circles. What's that? 0.75. Sure. And I'll make a couple of those. Copy, paste. Sure. Copy, paste. Sure. That goes up. All right, cool. The only reason I'm doing that is I could then go into my features and along with the extrude, add those in. Cool. Now it has little thumb ridges. That's all. Just making some little additions. You can always go in, add some fillets, curve this out, that sort. But essentially, the main thing is my lid now has a place for that latch to snap onto. So just make it a small little bit. It connects. Super good. You'll find that as you experiment with this, if you print these and, oh no, the latch immediately snapped off, you should go back in and make that a little bit thicker. This is one of like the trial and error things. You can also glue it back on. Super glue works really well. The other part I wanted to talk to you all about is great. It'll latch closed, but what is actually holding our hinge in place? Right now, the joint tool is great, but what is actually in that? Meaning, if I hide the lid, it's just a smooth surface. So what I want to show you now is how to add in, like on my round container here. There we go, the matchbox. Open up the container, hide the lid. There are, in this case, just little protrusions, these little spheres on either end, and they're literally that. I'm using spheres. So what I can do here is go on. Actually, I switched to utilities. So I'm going to go to create, add a sphere. I'm going to select this face of the lobe. So kind of like how you were doing for selecting the, adding the joint tool. Oh, yeah. That's just asking me to close the lid. So selecting all of that face, and if I mouse over to where about the center of that original tube would be, you'll see it snaps a little circle. All right. Yeah, that seems about the right size sphere. I don't want it to cut. I want it to join. Cool. Do the exact same thing on the other side. Right click to repeat sphere. That surface right there in the middle keeps making it cut. Join. There you go. So now it's got little nubs. That will hold the lid in place. After we do the same thing to cut into that. Lid. Because right now the base, or hiding the base, it still flat there on the lobe. So do the same thing we just did to make the little notch in the tab. Combine. I want to use the bottom to cut holes in the top. So my target body is the top. My tool body is the base. Cut, yes. Keep tools. Okay. Hide the base. Now I've got little hemispheres in the lid. That's it. So now we could print this in place, but what we would do to print this, open it all the way, well, I have a limit set on mine. I'll have to change that. So let me do that real quick. Instead of 130, let's make that 180. There. So now I could very easily, because my lid and base are the same height, I could take this to the printer. So far, we've been printing these as two separate things. I could take this to the printer, my slicer, export both of these as a solid object, print it, take it off, and I'd be able to just close my lid. Technically. We do have to add a wee tiny bit of space on here. So what I mean by that is I do want to have a tiny little gap. Let me turn off that section analysis. Oh, inspect section analysis and just the flat surface we've been working on. So as I'm looking at this, if I zoom in, see how that's exactly the size? They're right up against each other. If I printed that, they'll kind of squish and blend together. So I need to back that off just a teeny little bit. So what I'm going to do, and I will help you all with this stuff. So this is just me walking you through how this works. I'm going to hide that base, and I just need to make these, either these indents or the original sphere a little bit smaller. I'm going to do it on the indents because if I change the sphere, it'll also change the indents to just match again. So the tool I'm going to use is press pull or just Q on your keyboard. This is just an offset, three-dimensional offset, just like the offset line tool, same deal. Select the inside surface of both of those hemispheres. And I've been going with an offset of like 0.05 or 0.01 to 0.05, somewhere in there. Maybe split the difference, make it like 0.2. I don't know. 0.1 usually seems about enough. Other way, negative. Sorry. Negative numbers. So it makes it bigger. Okay. Now when I unhide the base, just a teeny little gap. That's it. It's just that teeny little gap, but it will make the difference when you print these. So main thing is a latch and the little balls on the spheres. So this is just a sketch from the side, extrude it, put a couple fillets to make it stronger, use the top to cut the bottom to make the wee little notch. The spheres, all that is literally adding a sphere tool to the lobes of one of the hinges and then doing the same thing. Use that now join thing to cut the sphere recesses in the lid. So both times you're using one complete object, the lid, to make a cut into the bottom and then vice versa. Every time, just make sure the checkbox that says keep cutting tools, keep that checked. I'm going to pause there and I will then show how to do it the same thing on a rounded object.